Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. We're live. We're here to review the weekend's All-Ireland Quarterfinal Football Championship action. It was certainly a very eventful weekend. Galway beating Dublin. Who would have predicted that? Who would have thought that? Galway, history makers. They make history. They beat Dublin for the very first time in the championship since 1934. 90 years the last time that Galway have beaten Dublin in the championship. We'll be discussing Kerry's win, obviously, against Derry as well. Of course, wins for both Donegal and Armagh, and of course we will be touching on the All-Ireland Minor final as well, the All-Ireland Minor hurling final, which was a bit of a mental game as well, so we'll certainly discuss that maybe a little bit briefly later on. Matthew, I suppose the first time going live in a couple of weeks, obviously away on an L holiday, which was decent, can't complain. Only thing is, the Dublin hurlers got knocked out while I was over there, and the Dublin footballers got knocked out on the way home, so I don't know, maybe I should have stayed abroad. Maybe it was a bad thing to come home, but all in all, a cracking weekend of football. How's things with you?
Yeah, all good, Aaron. Can't complain. Thanks for having me on again on the channel. Yeah, but it was just a surprise that the Dublin footballers went out, in all honesty. Like, it was shocking in many ways, the way that Galway beat them, the way they stuck in the game, and the way they got over the line in the end. And another few stats, obviously, over the weekend, a lot of them brandished, because this is a history-breaking Dublin team over the past few seasons. First time in 15 years that Dublin will not be in the last four, which you wouldn't have said probably at the start of the season. And as well as that, Louth stayed longer in the championship than Dublin, which I don't think you would have said that at the start of the year, or at the start of the decade, never mind the year, to be honest with you. I think Sean Cavanagh said it in the Sunday game last night. For Louth to be the last Leinster team standing is absolutely mental. And they put up a good fight against Donegal, to be fair to them as well. But yeah, you just hope there'll be good semi-finals now. Like, Galway, Donegal has the makings of a cracker. Like, two of them teams, I said to you off air, they're probably been the best two teams when you looked at it in the All-Ireland series. Armagh have been good defensively, maybe not so good in closing out games and things like that. They close out the games, to be fair to them, at the quarter-final weekend. The only team that haven't impressed in the championship that are in the last four, Kerry, they haven't been tested yet. As Stephen Galway, the former Monaghan footballer, said on my podcast during the week, before the Derry game, they didn't get the good test, and lo and behold, they didn't get the good test yesterday either. So we don't know where Kerry are at, in all honesty. It should be interesting to see where they're at come in 2 weeks' time against Armagh. But yeah, obviously a lot to discuss from this weekend's games, and looking forward to getting into it.
Did the quarterfinals live up to expectation, do you think? Because it was such a, I feel like quarterfinal weekend is nearly one of the biggest weekends in Gaelic football, because you've got four cracking games, double headers. Like, it's the first time really all year that Croke Park sells out. And look, obviously Dublin Galway, I think we probably got more than what we expected in that game. I think a lot of people expected Dublin to win relatively comfortably, or maybe just about shade. Donegal Louth was a cracker, in fairness. Armagh Roscommon, I thought, was a very disappointing game. Kerry Derry, I thought, was a very disappointing game. But overall, did we get what we expected from the quarterfinals, or were they a bit of a letdown, do you think?
I think two of the quarterfinals were let down, but two of them were very, very good. And when you looked at the quarterfinals last season, nearly all of them were let down, let's be honest. Kerry absolutely obliterated Tyrone. Dublin obliterated Mayo. Cork and Derry was one of the most boring games that you could ever wish for the quarterfinal. And Armagh and Monaghan, it was very bad in quality, and up until the penalties, wasn't much excitement either. When you look at the quarterfinals this weekend, Dublin Galway, excellent game of football, excellent shooting accuracy, and we had the shock at the end with Galway knocking the Dubs out as well. And what Gráinne McIlwain said on GA Go as well, the Dubs didn't lose the game, Galway won it, and that was epitomised what Galway brought to the party on Saturday. I have to say, I enjoyed Louth and Donegal. I really enjoyed that game. The fact that Louth really put it up to them, the fact they scored 18 points, and Donegal's shooting was just a joy to behold on Sunday. I have to say, they were really, really good in front of goal. Two of the games did disappoint. In Armagh, Roscommon just didn't get going really up until maybe Conor Turbott's goal, or maybe the second half, when at the end of the first half, should I say, when Rory Fallon got sent off, maybe fired something into Roscommon coming into the second half. But other than that, it wasn't really that good of an encounter. And Kerry Derry, let's be honest, it probably sent the half the nation to sleep, let's be honest, about that game. So So yeah, I think two of the games were very, very good. It was better than last year. I'll put it that way. But yeah, maybe a lot more was expected. And attendance wise, I was very shocked actually. Maybe not shocked about the Sunday attendance because I know Louth is a very small fan base. Kerry don't travel into the final. It's well documented. Derry, Donegal, we had to see were they willing to go up for that occasion. Saturday's attendance really surprised me, 49,000, especially with the Dubs being there and Armagh. Two very big fan bases, Roscommon as well, Galway, you could imagine as well. So I thought that'd be a full house, in all honesty, Aaron. It wasn't, which was a disappointment. And maybe there is, like a good friend Daniel Hussey said as well on Twitter, that maybe the quarterfinals could be better if they were on neutral grounds. Imagine like a Dr. Hyde Park hosting Galway and Dublin over the weekend, or Breffni Park hosting Armagh and Roscommon, or Kerry and Derry being held in Tullamore, or something like that. It would actually gather a good atmosphere. For me, I'd rather probably quarterfinals to stick in Croke Park, but looking at the attendances at the weekend, maybe it was a bit of a worry, especially after Saturday night's attendance. I didn't expect it to be that low, just under 50,000. I thought it'd be a full house, in all honesty.
Yeah, like it could be maybe like the cost of living, the cost of tickets, obviously traveling down as well, like Saturday evening game, like from looking at, and as well like Dublin Galway. It's a weird one. Like Dublin Galway hasn't been a rivalry. We haven't played them too often. It's not like Dublin Mayo. It's not like Dublin Kerry, Dublin Tyrone, where there's a bit of bite there. There's a bit of animosity. Look, maybe that might change now. The fact that Galway have beaten us. But Dublin hadn't lost to Galway at all since 2010 in the league. So I think it's a lot of game that maybe some Dublin fans might have turned their eye to. I think even some Galway fans who probably are predominantly a hurling county, or some say it's 50-50, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe some people will disagree. And look, it obviously was such a huge distance for Galway fans to travel, coming back late as well. I'd imagine the only Galway fans who would have been able to go to the game would have been the ones who were already living in Dublin, or the ones who would have drove down. And obviously you had a million other things going on this weekend as well. Like in Dublin, it was certainly a very, very busy weekend indeed. Fiacre says Dublin crap Donegal for Sam. Yeah, could very well be possible. Kieran says Derry supposedly have one of the best midfield pairings in the country. Yeah, continue to go short every time. An absolute waste and deserve to go out. Yeah, we'll get on to that. Rory says the end for Desi Farrell. I think so, Rory. I think so, but we'll certainly get on to that maybe a little bit later on. But yeah, look, we'll start with the game on Saturday. Dublin 16 points, Galway 17 points, and I suppose you have to start really with how well Galway played. Like in the first half, they were cut open a couple of times. I think Dublin could have had a couple of goal chances. There was a few half goal chances maybe that Dublin could have worked. I felt like Galway, who are predominantly very, very good defensively, I thought they actually had a few moments in the first half where they struggled, but to be fair, they kept themselves in the game. Shane Walsh was absolutely outstanding. Killian McDade had the game of his life, obviously coming back into the team as well. Paul Conroy was very, very good. Galway hung on and took their chances. And look, we've saw numerous occasions over the last couple of years where Dublin haven't performed. You know, like they only barely got over the line against Louth in the Leinster final. Drew at Roscommon in the championship last year. Nearly got bet by Kildare. Like this Dublin side aren't as consistent as the 6 in a row team anymore. Still a very, very good team, but they're not as consistent anymore. So I think if you get a chance to beat them, you have to take them. And in fairness to Galway, they took it with both hands, and you'd have to say it was well deserved.
It was, and I suppose from a Galway point of view, like you looked at it going into the game, and we thought, would Galway park the bus a small bit, a bit like what Derry have been doing over the last few years, and a bit like Donegal did in 2011 against the Dublin team, or what Derry did against Kerry this weekend, and just played with a bit of fear. Galway played with no fear going into this game, and in the first half, it was just about staying in the game for as long as possible. And they did, to be fair to them. They were only 4 points down at halftime. And Shane Walsh, and to be honest with you, Aaron, when Shane Walsh hobbled at the end of that first half and look at the stats and everything, he scored 5 of Galway's 7 points, 100% shot accuracy. And I was thinking, Galway are gone if he goes off. He carried on into the second half. He got a bit of an injury at the end. But what I will say about Shane Walsh, and enough about his 7 points, which was absolutely incredible, 7 out of 8 shots converted, which was an incredible performance by him. When he went off injured, he knew that his day was done. And that was kind of a selfless act, in my opinion, to get Galway going, in my opinion. Because you look at major players from up and down the country, say players in Mayo, Donegal, Tyrone, the challengers to the likes of Dublin, Kerry, they'd want to stay on the pitch for as long as possible. But Walsh knew at the end of that period in the second half, he told Power Joyce, look, that's it, I'm gone. Leave Tom O'Callaghan come on. And it was a brilliant decision because that earned 2 points, his selflessness, when you think about it. And that was important and more important than the 7 points, because when he pulled up, you could see he passed the ball to Cian Darcy in a better position and a guy who wasn't injured. Cian Darcy put the ball over the bar. If Shane Walsh would have gone and took that shot, that would have ballooned wide. And we could have been talking about a different story. And then when he went off the pitch, Tom O'Callaghan comes on, runs with Damien Comer for one of the last plays of the game, gets his score on the board as well. So I think it was just a team performance from Galway. They knew their jobs. They knew how to get the job done. And even their shoot accuracy was absolutely superb against Dublin. And that's a small thing. They had to get that right to go on and beat the Dublin team, but they had to play without fear as well. And by God, they did. In fairness to Galway, they went at them. Like Damien Comer didn't have his best game of the world, but still contributed well. Johnny Heaney scoring that point late on, like that is a clutch score when you think about it. Like that was an incredible score just to take on, and to beat Dublin in that second half by 10 points to 5 is absolutely outstanding. And even I discussed it with Seamus last night with the third quarter and the fourth quarter. I think it's probably an area where Galway won the game was the third quarter. They didn't score much, but they didn't allow Dublin to score much either. And when you look at Dublin down through the years, a 6-in-a-row team, even under Desi Hafar when the times were good, Dublin, when they excelled, was the third quarter. And it is well documented at this stage. Galway managed to hold them out until the last few minutes when they started to make a press on them. And that was a credit to Power Joyce and his team. And they definitely continued it until the final whistle as well. And they deserve a lot of praise, even in the defence as well. Johnny McGrath was brilliant. Sean Fitzgerald, I thought he was a marauding player at full back. Dylan McHugh was outstanding at wing back. Paul Conroy, I mentioned on Seamus' podcast last night, that guy's been through the doldrums of Galway football. He was there when Galway failed to win an All-Ireland knockout game for, I think, 4 or 5 years in a row. But then he sticks on with the Galway panel. He's about 32, 33, 34 at this stage. And he had an outstanding game in midfield. And Galway definitely stuck to their jobs. Every one of them, not every player performed to their very utmost ability, but all of them worked as a team. And you have to give credit to Power Joyce for that and getting Galway over the line. And it was an incredible performance from 1 minute to 70. And as Gráinne McElwain rightly said on GA Go, Dublin didn't perform badly. Dublin didn't lose the game. Galway won it. Galway were outstanding, and they deserve a lot of credit for getting over the line. And yeah, why can't they go on and get to the All-Ireland final and even indeed win it? Because this Galway team is on a trajectory at the moment, and they look really good. Like even when you look at the grander landscape of the All-Ireland, they only failed to win one game in the championship so far this year, and that was a last-minute equaliser from Stephen Campbell of Armagh. Like Galway are on a trek at the moment, and they look to be in a good one.
Yeah. Like, like where is it? Do you think that they did win it? Was it the fact that they kept Dublin quiet? Was it their brilliance in attack? Because I do think obviously a lot has been made of how good Galway have been defensively, and look, they've been outstanding. They've only conceded 1 goal, obviously so far in the championship, and that was obviously from the Conor Gleeson mistake. But you look at it like from player to player, and you look at it now that they have more or less their best starting 15 back. Like you've got arguably one of the best forwards in the country, in my opinion, in Shane Walsh. And he obviously came under a lot of criticism earlier in the year, which I never really understood, in all honesty. Like he was injured. He wasn't really playing throughout the league. There was people criticising him, saying he was, staying back, doing autographs. He was keeping his glasses on and everything during interviews or whatever. Like there was all sorts of mad criticism sort of that was going his way. But like when he gets to Croke Park, he is just a different player. Like he is one of them players. We saw this with Kerry players down the years. Obviously Dublin players tend to play every game in Croke Park, so not a fair comparison there. But you see it with hurlers as well. You see it with the Limerick hurlers when they get to Croke Park, they really come alive and kick into gear. And I think it's no different for Shane Walsh. We saw that on Saturday. Killian McDade back now looks brilliant. The options from the bench seem to be very, very good as well. So a lot's been made about their defence, but their attack is very, very strong. And it's arguably only going to get better as well.
Exactly. So Walsh, it wasn't just he was converting shots within in and around the D, and it was short distance shots were 100% and things like that. These scores were worldies in the first half. the kicks, the points he was kicking, they were near. They were. I would imagine about, I would say 2 or 3 anyway, at least, were outside the 40-meter arc with the FRC, the Football Review Committee thing. So that would have counted for 2 more points. That would have counted for 6. Like, he was absolutely incredible when you look at the shot take he was doing, and even to continue the way he did in the second half and to turn the balls over, even for Cian Darcy's score when he did eventually pull up. I think he was the one that intercepted that Dublin kick out, and or intercepted a turnover. He ran, then he pulled up, passed to Cian Darcy and put the ball over the bar. And I think on top of the points he did get, I think he got about 2 or 3 in assists as well. So that was a contribution of 10 points of Galway's 17. It's incredible, and he was an incredible player, no doubt about it. And Galway, no doubt about it, if they keep him fit, I think Galway have a serious chance of going on and winning the All-Ireland. They are a very good team with him in there as well. And another thing from a Galway point of view, not just Shane Walsh going off the pitch, but Sean Kelly early on in the second half. He's a brilliant player for this Galway team in the middle of the park or full back, wherever he plays. And for him to go off injured and to be replaced earlier than expected in the game, and for Galway to keep on going without him, they deserve a lot of credit for that. And a lot of narratives have been made about Galway in the league and past seasons that it's the Shane Walsh show, it's the Damien Comer show, it's the Sean Kelly show, it's the Paul Conroy show. For 3 of those players, 2 of them went off injured in the nitty-gritty stages of the game, and one of them was pretty anonymous at Damien Comer, let's be honest, and he still contributed for the team, but he wasn't as high as his highest levels, let's be honest, Damien Comer. So that's 3 out of the 4 best players for the Galway team taken out of it. So this was about a team performance for Galway. They had to put it in. Keelan McDade, as he mentioned previously, had a brilliant performance as well. Matthew Tierney wasn't that great, but still got that first point to get them up and running for the back early on in the game as well. So I think Galway were brilliant all over the field. It wasn't individuals. They did it as a team. And Shane Walsh's first half performance, like, that helped him along the way as well. It just showed Shane Walsh isn't a selfish player. He's a selfless player for this Galway team. I think he's an incredible player and an incredible player to have around the dressing room, not just on the pitch as well.
Yeah, A2 says here, Galway, so like Armagh, when the shackles come off and they go after teams, they look brilliant. We couldn't cope. And Galway are very well coached. Defensive structure, how they press. If they beat Donegal, they'll win the whole thing, in my opinion. Yeah, like, that's the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, beating Dublin, you beat the All-Ireland champions. You're now in the Final Four. We've been saying for a couple of years now, like, Galway have been coming. You know, like, they obviously got to the final in 2022. Maybe that felt like a little bit of a surprise. Maybe at the time it felt like a real sort of year where they came out and played some of their best stuff, got to the final, arguably should have beaten Kerry that day. Last season, for large parts, they were people's front runners, let's not forget. And then they had a bit of a wobble at the end of the group, lost to Mayo, obviously, in the preliminary rounds as well. Whereas now, like, they've beaten Mayo and Connacht, you know, which was a massive win. They've now beaten Dublin in the championship. They've beaten Derry in the championship as well, drew with Armagh. Like, Galway are coming strong, and, like, you could arguably say, like, it's their All-Ireland to lose now. And look, I saw the odds. I think Kerry are the favourites and Galway are second favourites, but you couldn't be sleeping on Galway now, especially after beating Dublin. Like, the momentum that they have is going to be absolutely huge. And maybe the only thing that could catch them could be injuries, could be a Walsh injury, a Comer injury. Like, obviously, look, they managed to get over the line without those injuries, but I think, you know, to go the whole way without those players, I think would be very, very difficult. But yeah, you feel like it's a massive chance now for Galway to win their first All-Ireland since 2001.
And even going back to last year when they did struggle, they lost those games against Armagh and Mayo by 1 singular point. So that's an average of a 1 point loss. Like, Galway were definitely in it right until the very end in the All-Ireland. And I know they went out at before the quarterfinal stage last year, but they were competitive in their games at least. And I guarantee you this, if they played Dublin last year rather than Mayo, they might have put up a bit better test to Dublin last season. So, look, I do think Galway have been along the block for a few years now, ever since Pádraig Joyce, he was building a team in 2020. Remember 2020, before COVID hit, Galway were one of the best teams in the country. They hammered Tyrone in the league. They were looking very pretty at the top of Division 1 in 2020 as well. The wheels started to fall off the wagon once the pandemic hit, and then at the end of 2020, they ended it badly, obviously losing 3 games on the bounce. Then 2021, they weren't that great either. but showed brilliance in that kind of final against Mayo. And ever since, I would say 2022, 2023, 2024, they've been competitive ever since. Like against Kerry, it was the last few minutes that Kerry got over the line in that All-Ireland final. Last year, they lost by the grain of rice, literally. And this year, they haven't lost the game of the championship. They've drawn one, and that was obviously a last-minute score from Stephen Campbell from Armagh. So, like Galway have been very, very competitive for 3 years. They've been building a team. And I think Tommy Rooney mentioned it off the ball this morning as well. They've built their success off the under-20 teams, and that's how it should be done from underage as well, because they won the under-20 All-Ireland against Dublin, coincidentally, in 2020 during the pandemic, when the likes of Tom O'Callaghan were there, Matthew Tierney, Jack Lynn, a few others as well. And lo and behold, Jack Lynn's in the starting team. Matthew Tierney's there. Tom O'Callaghan got a crucial score at the end of the Dublin game as well. So they're all coming to fruition. Achille McDade's another good young player coming through the ranks as well. Shane Walsh and Damien Comer still around. Paul Conroy's still around. Conor Gleeson is improving in goal. And whatever criticisms you want to put about Conor Gleeson, he's only conceded one goal in the championship. Like it or not, that's an incredible record. The defence as well in Johnny McGrath, Sean Fitzgerald, another guy from that under-20 team in 2020. They all seem to be gelling together in this for Galway. Like the youth and the experience seem to be doing very well in conjoining in the team as well. So I think this has been coming for a long time. A big win like this over Dublin or Kerry have been coming for a long time for this Galway team. When you look at the underage structures, when you look at what Pádraig Joyce has been building over the last few seasons, and the fact that we're very, very close in 22, 23, and now this season as well. Like, it might have come as a shock when Galway got over the line against Dublin, but when you think about it more, you think maybe it isn't such of a shock considering the great work that has been done in the grassroots of Galway football over the last few seasons.
Yeah, and I suppose as for Dublin, first All-Ireland quarter-final defeat since 2009. Obviously, that defeat was against Kerry. So it's been a long time, like 15 years since Dublin haven't not played an All-Ireland semi-final. You think of all the things that have obviously happened since then. 8 All-Ireland, 6 in a row. Complete domination really from a Dublin perspective. Actually 9 All-Irelands. So it's been an incredible run really for Dublin. Rumours Dessie Farrell is going. Look, he's obviously been there. This is his 4th year now in charge. So it's or his 5th year in charge. Like, it's arguably coming towards the end of his reign. You've got James McCarthy, Stephen Cluxton, Mick Fitzsimons, who are all probably on the wrong side of 30. Brian Fenton, Kieran Kilkenny. Like, these lads aren't slowing down either. Is the underage coming through? I'm not entirely sure. And I remember speaking about Dublin last year, and I was never really confident we'd win the All-Ireland. I do think the All-Ireland came, I think it papered over the cracks really. It came against the run of how the year had gone. We put in an unbelievable performance against Mayo. We weren't great against Monaghan, but we did the job and got over the line. And against Kerry, we were brilliant that day. But let's not forget Clifford missed a lot of chances. So I think this is a very good Dublin team, but I don't think it's anywhere near the Dublin team that won the 6 in a row. Or even the Dublin team that won it in 2013 or 2011. In all honesty, and I think we could arguably be seeing a decline for Dublin now in the next few years. That doesn't appear to be a huge amount coming through. And I think the more worrying part now is you feel like everyone's getting a good crack at Dublin. Galway are beating us. Mayo beat us in 21. Kerry beat us in 22. Louth gave a good crack at us in the Leinster final. Kildare nearly beat us last year. Roscommon nearly beat us. So you're kind of looking at it and thinking it really does feel like Dublin are well and truly back in the pack. And the days of dominating anyway are certainly a good bit away again.
Add to that as well, I wanted to add this for my own personal satisfaction. Cork nearly beat Dublin in the league last year as well. Remember David O'Hanlon tipping the ball into the onto the bar, but you don't know where Dublin go from here. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a complete disaster for Dublin. I don't think it's a disaster class. I think there's still some room to improve from a Dublin point of view, but I said to Seamus and I'll say it to you tonight, I think Fitzsimons, McCarthy and Cluxton should have retired last year after the All-Ireland final. To go out on a high, like this year, maybe it was a step too far. I just felt like that was the perfect stage to wave goodbye. I just think that was it. They should have been finito after that. And what I was worrying about, and the GAGO panel mentioned this, very good coverage by GAGO, by the way, as well. They mentioned at the end of it, I know hindsight's a beautiful thing, But Paul Mannion was a late replacement in. James McCarthy was. Imagine if those three guys were on the bench, coming onto the pitch, striking fear into Galway. And you looked at the bench, looking at the bench, no offence to the other players, but other than Colin Baskell, I don't think there was anything to fear off that Dublin bench. Ross McGarry's a good player. Pat O'Cuffey-Byrne's a good player. Lorcan O'Dell is a good player. But they haven't gone down to the well. They aren't match winners. They aren't match winners like McCarthy, like McCaffrey, like Mannion. So did Dessie Farrell make an error in judgment that time? Maybe he did. But they started well, obviously. They just couldn't build up a high enough lead. There is still good performers in the Dublin team, but Cormac Costello performed well this season. Conor O'Callaghan, as we recorded this, is still the top scorer from play, so he didn't have a bad year whatsoever either. Paul Mannion, when he was on the pitch, did very well as well. Brian Fenton. It just seems like, it's probably an end of an era. Dessie Farrell probably will step down now. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes in. I've heard rumours from Louth fans themselves that Joe Brennan might go into the Dublin job straight from Louth. I think that would be probably bad for him. Let's be honest. We'll talk about Louth more in a bit. But Shane was telling me last night that Declan Darcy might come in, Jason Sherlock. It'll be interesting to see who Dublin actually bring in after Dessie Farrell. We'll have to see. But it probably is an end of the year for a lot of players. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because David O'Hanlon could come in for Cluxton, and David O'Hanlon, I've seen it's a full flight in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. The guy is a very, very good goalkeeper and can definitely stand in for Stephen Cluxton. For James McCarthy, there's other guys to come in. Sean Butler, still a young player. He can take up the mantle, and he performed well at stages this season as well. You look at other players, Big Fitzsimons, Theo Clancy got a bit of championship time this season. He could come into full back. So maybe it's the changing over the guard for this Dublin team, and to bring in these new players, the Clancys, the O'Hanlons, the Buglers will get more of a role in the Dublin team. And maybe that will be a good thing for the future of Dublin football, that these guys will get a run. But what I will say, the Leinster Championship will be very, very interesting next season in terms of Louth. Can Louth put it up to Dublin? Because we see this weekend they look very, very good against Donegal. They beat Cork as well. They should have beat Monaghan. They were very good in the Leinster final against Dublin. Can they take it a step further in beating Dublin in Leinster? I think Meath are a bit off it yet because of the shenanigans that went on with Colin O'Rourke's post-match interview against Monaghan. I don't think Meath were taking it seriously this season, which was a shame. Kildare are an utter mess, and if Brian Flanagan comes in, maybe it'll change something in Kildare football. So it will be interesting to see what Louth can do, especially next year against this Dublin team. Can they take them to the well like they did in the Leinster final this season? It'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. We are seeing more and more teams get closer to Dublin and Leinster. Will it happen next year? I'm not sure, but I do agree as well. I think, and Rory made the point here earlier, I feel like Dessie made some silly decisions, taking Jack and Scully off and Mannion. I don't think Jack McCaffrey had his best game, to be honest, but I don't think he should have started. I don't think James McCarthy should have started either. These lads hadn't been starting all year. Do you know what I mean? I think this was Jack McCaffrey's first championship start. I think pretty much the same with James McCarthy as well. So I think he should have stuck with the grain. He should have stuck with the players that have gotten this far, and then you bring them lads off the bench. We saw Jack McCaffrey make a big impact coming off the bench. We saw that against Mayo as an example. He came off the bench and was absolutely brilliant. So I do think Dessie Farrell made some mistakes. I think Noel Scully was arguably one of our best players on the pitch. The decision to take him off as well was very unusual. It felt predetermined, and it almost felt like it was a bit of complacency for Dessie Farrell in terms of, let's save him for the next game when this game wasn't over. And I do think there was complacency with Dublin. I think we thought the game was done. I think 14-11 at one stage going into the final, 20 minutes. We were 8-3 up at one stage in the first half, 7-2 up. Galway never led. Galway led twice in the entire game. I think when they hit the opening score, and then obviously towards the end of the game as well. So I think there was complacency, and I think it was there with the crowd. It was probably there with the fans as well. And we didn't feel like we were ever going to get beat until the final whistle went. And quite incredibly, we had chances at the end. Con misses a chance that he normally scores that would have sent it to extra time. So, it was a little bit unusual. Rory says here, we want Jim Gavin. I think after Jim Gavin going in with the Football Review Committee, I don't think you'll tempt him to come back. Unfortunately, I think his days in intercounty management are probably done. But look, Ger Brennan wouldn't be a bad shout. I would like to see him do another year at Louth, just because we see with managers time and time again, The first year goes very well. The second year can sometimes get a little bit bumpy. So I would like to see him have another year at Louth. In all honesty, Declan Darcy could definitely be a shout. We'll see what happens there, or maybe they might stick with Desi. He has won 2 All Irelands in his time as manager, but there definitely does need to be a change, and I think it's actually harming Dublin actually more now playing Cluxton, playing McCarthy, playing Fitzsimons, because you're hampering the development of O'Hanlon, you're hampering the development of Theo Clancy, Patrick O'Cuffick Byrne, Sean Bugler. And I think the big the big aim now for next season has to be bringing through the young players, bring through some of the under 20 lads. And look, we might win the All Ireland next year, but it might stand to us in a few years' time,
Possibly so, and definitely a good point about like even Cluxton coming back. I know it was the last hurrah for him, obviously winning the All Ireland, but when he came back into the tunnel against Louth, I said that at the time, it would have been very unfair on David O'Hanlon. Yes, Cluxton has a presence in controlling the team, and he's a very, very good guy organising the back line. But David O'Hanlon didn't put a foot wrong in that league campaign in Division 2. He almost saved Dublin in nearly every game, so it was just harsh kind of to take him out. And it was, I just believe that he would have been an able replacement. Theo Clancy was seen in the club championship with Kilmacud is a quality fullback and could definitely come in for Mick Fitzsimons. Like teams have to move with the times as well. You look at Kerry down through the years, like maybe they stuck with a few players for longer than expected. The likes of Tomas O'Shea, Mark O'Shea, all them, Paul Galvin, they stuck with them in the mid 2010s. They went through a bit of a lull with a bit of transition. I know they won the All Ireland in 2014, but after 2014 they didn't win the All Ireland until 2022. So sometimes keeping these players for a long period of time will kind of hamper the team. And you look at Mayo as a big example as well, obviously getting to All Ireland final after All Ireland final. But then when Andy Moore starts to get old, you have other players in and around the Mayo panel as well, Lee Keegan, hampering the development of the Mayo youngsters. They don't seem near getting an All Ireland. They've been knocked out of the quarterfinal last year. No, they're not even in the quarterfinal weekend this year. There's other examples as well. Tyrone stuck with the lads a bit too long as well. I remember 2012, they went down to Killarney. They got absolutely hammered by Kerry, sticking with the likes of Brian McGuigan, Brian Dewar, all them for so long. And that kind of hampered them as well. They didn't win another All Ireland until 2021. So looking at that kind of historic element, maybe it could be a concern for Dublin when you think about it. That's the only one I thought about to know. When you list off the teams that have kept these legends on for way too long, longer than expected. Kilkenny's another example if you want to move to the small ball. The likes of Henry Sheff and the likes of Jackie Turner stayed on a bit too long. JJ Delaney as well stayed on a bit too long, hampered the development of the Kilkenny players. And then after 2015, from 2016 onwards, Kilkenny haven't won an All Ireland since. So, yeah, I think Dublin have to bring in these young players now. It's the time to do it. Time to bring in O'Hanlon, time to bring in Theo Clancy, Patrick O'Cuffick Byrne. They're quality footballers, but they need time on the pitch to develop too. So maybe it could be a good thing for Dublin to bring these lads in.
Yeah, a few more suggestions here. Marty says Rory Gallagher. Don't think there's a chance of that happening, in all honesty. Rory says, what about Pat Gilroy? Yeah, I just don't think Pat would really be in it, to be honest with you. Like, he had a stint managing the Dublin Hurlers, and it went all right, but he was only there, I think, a year or two, or something like that. So no, I couldn't see Gilroy coming back in. He might come back in some capacity. He might do something behind the scenes, but I don't think he'd come in as manager. Acer says Dublin play exactly the same like they did against Mayo in the semi-finals in the 2021 defeat. Yeah, it was very, very similar. In fairness, Keane says yesterday could have been Desi Farrell's last match in charge of the Dubs. I hear that Declan Darcy could be the next man in the Dublin hot seat. Yeah, he was the man being rumoured the last couple of years. I know he was doing a bit of work with Leinster. I don't know if he still is. I don't know if he'd leave to come to Dublin. But yeah, look, he was, he was Jim Gavin's right-hand man and everything else. He was the brains behind the operation, so he mightn't be a bad shout. And we will see what happens. But moving on to some of the other games, Kerry 15 points, Derry 10 points. As we were saying before, not a great game. In all honesty, certainly not a game that lives up to the ages. I think when the draw happened, we all looked at this game and thought this could be a cracker. Derry are coming in with momentum, having beaten Mayo. Kerry finally going to get a bit of a test. How are they going to come in? And it was just a very, very poor game. Like 6 points apiece at half time. I don't think either side really played well. I think Kerry done enough in the, towards the end of the game. I think they showed why they won the All-Ireland a couple of years ago. They showed why they're a great team, because they managed to power through and get the job done. Tony Brosnan stood up in fairness. Paul Ganey was good. David Clifford with 3 points. But yeah, very poor game. But Kerry got the job done, and that's the most important thing from their perspective.
Exactly, and look, Kerry haven't got a test in this year's All-Ireland. It's well documented, and if they don't get a test up until when they get their hands on Sam Maguire, if that is the case, then I don't think Jack O'Connor will give it an iota. What either of us say, what the pundits say, Kerry would have their hands on the Sam Maguire Cup, and that's all he'll care about. That's all that is ranked in the Kingdom of Kerry at the moment. Look, I don't think it was a brilliant performance by Kerry, but it was enough to get over the line. Like, you looked at some of the decisions that Derry were making. The first half wasn't too bad, but the second half, there just was no urgency. Like I said to you off air, I think it was this. Like, if you took the scoreboard actually away from the viewers, you wouldn't have realised Derry were 3-4 points down going to the last few minutes. It was just a sense of, we're just happy to be there. We're not willing to attack Kerry and things like that. It just was a sad end from a Derry point of view. And I imagine Mickey Hart, he's gone. I think there's no other hope for him. It almost looked like, from a Derry point of view, that the players weren't shooting for him. The players weren't willing to get back into the game for Mickey Hart. They were almost like, okay, Kerry are 3 points, 4 points up here. We may as well just finish out this game, go to next year. Mickey will be out the door. And that was the sense from this Derry team as well. Like, and it wasn't a great spectacle, to be honest with you. Like, the style of play from both sides, not just Derry now, but from Kerry as well. Like, even when Orr Lynch was out of the goal, there were stages in the second half where Kerry were willing to hand pass the ball around the centre of the pitch, and it was just like, go for their throat. It's just like, I don't like this style of football. I've said this over the past year with Cork as well, like passing the ball backwards, passing the ball sideways. It's just not a good game of football. Like, when Orr Lynch is out of goal, you see what Donegal did in the Ulster Championship. They went for their throat. And that's why I think Donegal are playing better football this year. Galway are playing better football. But again, Kerry won't give a damn as long as they get their hands on the Sam Maguire. That's all they'll care about. And to be fair to them, Sean O'Shea took a few points in the last few minutes. David Clifford did as well. Tony Brosnan got 2 points. But it just wasn't a good game of football, was it, Aaron? And I think the quicker it is erased from many people's memories, the better, because it wasn't a good game of football. And as Seamus said his show last night, as the history, if people are looking back at the history books, all they'll see is Kerry 15 points, Derry 10 points. They won't care what style of a game it was. Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-finals, and that's what the headline will be.
Yeah, it's a bit like like when Dublin beat Kerry in the 2015 All-Ireland final. Like, it was probably one of the worst All-Ireland finals of all time, but Dublin won, and it's something that you celebrate and everything else. And I'm sure Kerry have had All-Ireland wins in the past. Tyrone have had them, Armagh have had them, and everything else. It is one of them things that you don't really look back at, in fairness. But like, for Kerry, are they the All-Ireland favourites now, in your opinion, now that Dublin are gone?
You'd have to say so, yeah. Even though, like, it's funny because, like, if you're doing it off reputation out of the top, the semi-finalists, Kerry would be top of the three because of obviously winning in 2022. They've put it up to Dublin last year. They probably should have won the All-Ireland final last year. Let's call it a spade a spade. But when you look at the performances of the 4 semi-finalists this year, the test they have gotten, Kerry would be bottom in 4th. So it's still hard to judge them. And Tomás O'Shea said before the game yesterday, you don't know where Kerry are at. That's the honest truth of it. And you thought they'd get a good test yesterday, but let's call it a spade, Aaron. You still don't know where Kerry are at because they haven't got a test yet. Let's be honest. Like, you thought Derry would, didn't put up a test. Them. Like, I say this to you off air as well. In the championship, only 2 teams ran at this Kerry defence, and that was Cork and Clare in the Munster Championship. No other side has managed to do that in the latter stages of the championship, which is quite frustrating, in all honesty, because, like, it's a sense of Kerry do have good defenders on paper, the likes of Tyke Moore, the likes of Jason Foley, Brian O'Buckley, he's having a good year in fairness, and he's in all-star form. But you just have the feeling if a side like a Galway or a Donegal or an Armagh have the braveness to run at this Kerry defence, what will Kerry react? How will they react in that kind of scenario? And the honest truth of it is, Aaron, we don't know. And that's just it's just frustrating when you think about it that way, because it's so hard to predict. Like, Kerry are a good side. They have some brilliant players like David Clifford, Sean O'Shea, but even the stat coming into this quarterfinal weekend, only 3 players scored more than 10 points for Kerry in the championship, and that was Sean O'Shea, David Clifford, and Tom O'Sullivan. Only 1 player scored 2 points or more from play yesterday against Derry. That was Tony Brosnan. Like, it's just like they're not performing well, but they're still getting over the line. And it's just the opposition they're playing. It doesn't seem to be up to the standard for what Kerry would like. I don't know how Jack O'Connor would be feeling inside, to be honest with you. Would he be feeling relieved that they are in an Ireland semi-final and Dublin are out now and they're considered the favourites? Or would he be frustrated that they're just not getting a test anywhere? And it's just like, I think Kerry fans would be thinking the same thing as well. You try to be confident about this Kerry team, but then again, you don't know where they stand. So it's a tough one. It really is a tough one. But in terms of reputations, you have to put Kerry as number 1. But in terms of performances, I'd probably put them down the bottom. But then again, it's so hard to judge.
Yeah, Keane says here, Derry's number 1, Aaron Lynch, went up to the forward line with the ball, lost possession a few times and could have been caught out on a number of occasions. Kerry did just enough. Yeah, I think that's something Derry need to look at next year. You know, like, I know Aaron Lynch scored a point and everything else, and I think he was Derry's only scorer in the final 15 minutes, and look, fair play to him for obviously taking that point. But like, the amount of times he gave the ball away, he was nearly, like, there was a couple of occasions you felt like Kerry could have lobbed him, like, you know, a bit like when Donegal did in that game. So I don't know. Like, I think from a Derry perspective, like, this, you feel like there's a lot really that needs to change, and whether it is Mickey Harte needs to go, I'm not entirely sure. And look, I know people have made the point they've played 3 weeks on the bounce and the lads are tired and everything else. But look, Galway played 3 weeks on the bounce and 3 very intense games, you know, playing against Armagh, Monaghan, Dublin. You know, Derry
played 3 weeks on the bounce. Louth as well.
Yeah. And look how well they played. And look, did Mickey Harte, like, did Derry go too strong early on in the league? Should they have been playing Conor Glass, Kieran McFall, like, a week after winning the All-Ireland? You know, like, I don't really know if they should have been. And ultimately, like, what do you reckon? Do you think Mickey Harte will be gone? And, like, I think they might give him another year, but I don't know. I do have a feel. I wouldn't be surprised also if he goes.
I think there was a sense around Crow Park yesterday that the way Derry were playing in the last few minutes, they weren't going for Kerry's throat. I just feel like the players just had enough. By the looks of the body language of the players, even going down the home stretch, they didn't look like they were interested in getting back into the game. That was what I was seeing anyway. I just feel like, yeah, he's gone. And I thought the Mayo game might have ignited a bit of spark into the Derry team, but it just hasn't. And as our friend Seamus Brady said as well, and he's very right about this, Mickey Harte coming in this year was a quick fix. It wasn't a long-term project. It wasn't a 5-year project, as Colin O'Rourke is saying that he described his time with Meath. This was All-Ireland or bust for Derry. They had to win an All-Ireland or come remotely close. And the cold reality is, Aaron, they've actually gone a step backwards. They got to the quarterfinal when they got to the semi-final and tested Kerry all the way last year and definitely threatened Kerry's goal in the last few minutes. This year, there didn't seem to be that urgency. So I just feel, yeah, I think he's gone. I know it's 1 year, but it was a quick turn fix. I think that was obvious for everybody to see. And yeah, I honestly think that the end was Mickey Harte's reign as Derry coach. But yeah, it was a disappointing end to the year, which started off so promising for Derry. But yeah, I think he's gone. And it'll be interesting as well with Chrissy McKay call it a day at full back. Would that have been the last we've seen of him in the Derry shirt? Who knows? But yeah, I think that'll be the last we've seen of Mickey Harte anyway.
Yeah, Sean says here, they say it was a soft All-Ireland. Every year Kerry win one. This will be the same this year. Yeah, look, a lot of people probably do say that, in fairness, but I don't think 2022 was a soft All-Ireland. Like, you did beat the Dubs in the semis, you beat Mayo in the quarters, and, you know, Galway, as we know, are a very good side as well. But look, Kerry will be tested. Like, there will be opportunities to beat this Kerry team. It's just whether someone can take it, and I do think they can be caught. I don't think they're invincible. You know, I don't think this is like when Dublin were unstoppable or anything like that. I think this Kerry side are beatable, but it's just whether someone can take it. But I do agree with you; they probably are at this moment in time the favourites. Acer says Derry play 2 sweepers. Armagh play 15 on 15. Dylan says Kerry will win it 100%. They played that way on purpose yesterday to beat Derry's blanket defence. They did the same against Donegal in 2014. It didn't look pretty, but it won them the match. And the Wald says here, Armagh, Kerry going to be a repeat of Armagh Galway 2022, hopefully with extra time and penalties, battle of the baddest. Well, the good news is for Armagh fans, there can't be penalties. It would have to go to a replay. Now, I don't know about the All-Ireland replay. I don't know if you do another replay after that, but we'll obviously have to wait and see if that was the case. But the good news is for Armagh fans, if they get to a final, they won't have to worry about penalties. And speaking of Armagh, they are in a semi-final. They beat Roscommon 2-12 to 12 points. Not a great game. I have to say I'm very disappointed with Roscommon, especially after beating Tyrone and the way that they did. I think they kicked 1 point in the opening 30 minutes. The amount of sidewards, backwards, hand passes, like the reluctancy really to take people on, to take chances, to take risks was just very, very infuriating. But look, fair play to Armagh. They stood up, they got the job done, and first semi-final since 2005.
Yeah, you have to give Armagh credit where it's due to get to the semi-final. It wasn't a great game, as you mentioned. Like, even looking back at it on a GA goal, like Armagh had 24 shots at Roscommon at 29. When you looked at from the stats, Armagh actually had less shots than Roscommon and they'd less the ball, but Roscommon's shooting was really, really poor. I think it was 41% at the end, 35% from play, 10 wides overall. And what's damning as well is six of their shots dropped short. Like, how many times did Roscommon get in the right position and then drop the ball short? It was just so frustrating from a Roscommon point of view. But even with the dominance of possession and the dominance in shots and all that, Armagh still looked comfortable in this game. They didn't look like they were going to lose it. And to be fair, you have to give Armagh credit for winning this game, but they kick out in the second half from Conor Carroll, and he's had a brilliant few years in the Roscommon shirt. You nearly feel sorry for him, but to kick the ball out straight to the Armagh player, Conor Turbot, back in the net, it was almost like deja vu from a Roscommon and Conor Carroll point of view, because that's how they conceded the goal against Cork last year. They knocked them out in the All-Ireland, and they conceded that same type of goal again. And look, Armagh deserve a lot of credit. They're in the All-Ireland semi-final. They're there on merit. And when you look at the stats from defensively and some from offensively as well, like Blaine Hughes in 16 Championship League and Championship games this season, he's kept a clean sheet in 14 of those. So he's only conceded a goal in 2 games. Like, that's pretty impressive. And the defence from Armagh deserve a lot of credit. Blaine Hughes himself deserves it. Barry McCambridge was exceptional from wing back as well. Like, there was a lot of good performers from Armagh as well. Peter McGrain and Aaron McKay as well. From an Armagh point of view, like, they kept Dermot Murta scoreless up until the last few minutes, which was a big achievement from them. Like, he was very good for Roscommon up until this game. And a forward I wanted to mention as well, Conor Turbot. He's actually only 4 points behind Conor Callan for play. Scored 3 goals and 10 points from play in the championship. 1-1 again from play at the weekend. Like, the guy is on fire. And like Armagh fans always say, give the ball to Turbo, he'll spin you. And that's proven to be the case this season. Rian O'Neill didn't have his best game, but there are other players for Armagh to step up. That is the pleasing aspect for them. And you just hope they will put it up to Kerry. You just hope that they will. And judging by the games over the last few seasons, when you looked at it last year, they didn't lose a game after normal time whatsoever. Or they lost one against Tyrone, pardon me. But this season, they haven't, I don't think they've lost a game in normal time this year in the championship. They haven't, no. And in the league, they only lost in the league final to Donegal. So you looking at that kind of standpoint, you'd hope that Armagh really will put it up to Kerry. And the fact there is no penalty shootout, maybe the fact that Armagh could win after replay is there for them. So yeah, I think it was a good win for Armagh. Roscommon, as you said, very disappointing, but maybe they just ran out of steam at the end. And the sending off of Rory Fallon, the injuries of David Murray and Ultan Harney kind of costs Roscommon in the end too.
Yeah, no, absolutely it did. Like, and it was disappointing certainly from a Roscommon perspective. But as you said, Barry McCambridge, outstanding 1-2 from him. Conor Turbot with 1-2. Oisin Connaughty with 4 points. Stephen Campbell with 2 points. Aidan Forker with a point, and Grimley obviously getting on score sheet there as well. So yeah, very, very solid result there from an Armagh perspective. Like, can they beat Kerry? Like we said before, like Kerry look like at times they're there for the taking. You know, Cork gave them a good rattle, Clare gave them a good rattle. Like, you know, nobody gave them a rattle, to be fair, in the groups. You felt like for Derry, there was chances there for Derry maybe to make a game over. Like for Armagh, we've saw them in big games time and time again, and I know they got over the line here in this quarterfinal, but I feel like they were expected to do that. Like you're looking at the Kerry game, and it's, you know, it's as big as it gets, really. You feel like they have the talent, they have the ability. Maybe Rian O'Neill isn't in the best form, didn't look entirely happy to be substituted yesterday, but you know, if he clicks into gear, what a player he is. So can they do it? Could they pull off the upset in a few weeks' time?
Looking at performances, you have to definitely fancy Armagh going to the game against Kerry. But Kerry, they're the kind of team that always did. They have a stage in Croke Park where they're going to click into gear. They didn't do so yesterday and still got over the line. I just feel like Armagh would put it up more to Kerry, and then David Clifford, Sean O'Shea, Thomas Sullivan, they'll crank it up to 4th, 5th gear. They could do so. I would just think that might be enough for Kerry to get over the line. But at the same time, if Cork only lost by 3 points, if Clare lost by 7, and Clare got 3 goal chances in that game, and then as Cork got 3 goal chances against Kerry as well, why can't Armagh get the goal chances? Derry only got 1, and without playing particularly well. Obviously, the Garba McKinless chance early on in the game, let's not forget. So, like, Armagh are well able to take goals as well. And when you look at down the other end of the pitch, as I mentioned with the Blaine Hughes stat, 14 clean sheets in 16 games, Kerry in the championship have only scored at least a goal in 2 games, against Meath and against Louth. Louth were thinking about the next round, let's be honest. And Meath weren't great this year, let's be honest, as well, up in Partalton. So Kerry have not hit the back of the net multiple times this year. They aren't very lethal in front of goal this season, which can be a concern for Jack O'Connor as well. And I'm sure Kieran McKeaney would be delighted with that as well. And the fact they have Conor Turban on form, Rian O'Neill can get on form as well. Rory Grugan is very good in the frees usually. Ben Creedy's performing well in midfield. Stephen Campbell, if he's reserved on the bench, I think that's another ace of the cards for Armagh as well. Oisin Conasy was absolutely brilliant over the weekend with 4 points as well, and has definitely been a revelation for Armagh. So they definitely have a chance. They do have a chance. But what I would say for Armagh, if they are to beat Kerry, they have to go for their throat. They have to go down the centre and run at this Kerry team. If they don't do so and they sit back, Kerry might pick off space, and David Clifford would put his points over at ease. But if Armagh go down Kerry's throat in this game, there's always the chance that Armagh turn them over.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they have a very, very good chance. And obviously that's a double header, obviously, with the Tailteann Cup final as well in 2 weeks' time. So very much looking forward to that one. Comment here from Kieran, who says, if Donegal go the whole way and win Sam, wouldn't Paddy McBurty be the only Donegal man with 2 All-Irelands? A nice little record to have. He would be, yeah. Ryan McHugh, I think the same as well. Was he part of it?
No, I didn't.
He wasn't part of it.
His brother was, Mark. His brother was. But
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Always mixing them up. Too many McHughes in Donegal these days, in fairness, but there we are. Donegal 123, Louth 18 points. Yeah, arguably game of the weekend, this one. Kind of mad. I was looking at it there. Louth, like only one team scored more than Louth in a game this weekend, and that was Donegal. Like Louth scored enough to beat anyone else. And I know obviously GA math doesn't add up. You know, I'm sure it would have been a different game had they played Kerry or had they played Dublin or something like that. Obviously they couldn't have played them, but just giving that example. But overall, like Donegal, their efficiency, their shooting in front of goal was absolutely brilliant. And do you know what? Like looking at their performances, looking at how they've come through Ulster, looking at the Jim McGuinness effect and everything else, like I'd nearly start to quietly fancy them to win it, to be honest with you. I feel like if someone can stop Kerry, I think Donegal could do it. I think Galway will be a tough test, and Galway might very well beat them, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on Donegal. Like there's hype around Kerry, Armagh, obviously Galway as well, but Donegal are coming in very strong now.
They are, and as you mentioned, the shooting efficiency there, 75%, 3 wides, like that's just monstrous. And the amount of scores they were taking from, as Jim Gavin would describe at the Football Review Committee, outside that 40-metre arc. Donegal took a load yesterday, and their shooting from long range is absolutely incredible. Like, Peadar Morgan had an exceptional game with 5 points. Oisin Gallen is up near the top scorers, along with Ryan O'Donoghue and Samuel Roy, and all them had another good game yesterday. Paddy McBrearty only scored 1 point from a mark yesterday, funnily enough. He didn't score any from play, and Donegal still scored 123. Like, it was an incredible performance from them attack-wise. I don't think Jim McGuinness would be happy conceding 18 points. And Louth did play pretty well. I'm not criticising them whatsoever. But I think Donegal will need to tighten up with their defence if they are to beat Galway in the semi-final. But they were very, very good attack-wise. And Owen Bon Gallagher getting that crucial goal in the second half as well. But you know what? I have to give credit to Louth, because we've seen so many teams, new teams, go up to Croke Park and then they flatter to deceive. They're happy to be there. You look at the likes of Clare in 2 years ago and 2016. You looked at Galway initially. You looked at Kildare, conceded 7 goals against Kerry. They just were shell-shocked. This Louth team, they're legit. As Seamus rightly said on one of his podcasts as well, they look a very, very good side. And like, their shooting accuracy was 58%. They scored 18 points. They actually had 31 shots compared to Donegal's 32. They competed. They really competed very well, Louth. And Ger Brennan deserves a lot of credit this year for drilling this Louth team and doing well in Croke Park this year. And let's look at it from this standpoint as well. Owen Bon Gallagher, before his goal, they were only 4 points ahead, Donegal. Louth were definitely in it. Like, Tom Jackson scored a point, Liam Jackson scored a point, it's Samuel Roy popping points all over the place as well. Tommy Jordan had an exceptional performance in midfield with 4 points. Louth were motoring well, and then it was almost like the goal from Owen Bon Gallagher. That was it, and the big test ended after that. But you have to give a serious credit, a serious shout out to Louth, because they've done their fans proud this season. No pun intended. They were absolutely exceptional. They deserve a lot of praise for this season, and they will probably be one of the favourites to go up from Division 2 next season. I know they're a small county with a small population, but they're definitely performing well this season. As for Donegal, though, they'll definitely be a very good test for Galway. And to be honest, I am looking forward to that semi-final, because Galway did very well against Dublin, got over the line that game. And Donegal, when you looked at it from the cold light of day in the championship, they only conceded at least a goal in one championship game this year against Cork. And even when you look at the Cork game from that standpoint, they had a 69% shot accuracy. So it was just 3 goals that killed them in Páirc Uí Rinn. And maybe it was a bit of a fluke that Cork won that game. So Donegal have looked really, really good in this championship. And Jim McGuinness will be happy with the attack from this team so far. They need to probably brush up on a few things in defence. But I think the positive thing from Donegal point of view yesterday was they didn't concede a goal. They didn't do the same tactics as they did against Cork, especially with the Matty Taylor goal, where they pushed all their players up and went on manic press. They dropped some players back, and Louth weren't able to get the same space that Cork did. So that is a positive from the Donegal side of things. And I think they'll brush up even more come the semi-final against Galway. And it should be a very good game in 2 weeks' time.
Absolutely, yeah. Acer says here, Sunday's complete 82,000 sellout. Yeah, absolutely. And myself, Matthew, will both be there. So we'll both be looking forward to the game and everything else. And yeah, there'll be a preview out later in the week for that. McGow says the Donegal-Galway game is going to be very interesting. Such an intriguing matchup. Hard to know what will happen. Yeah, like, you feel like it could be a cagey game. It could be back and forth. You don't really know. It's a very, very hard one to predict. Like, Donegal, Galway haven't played each other too often in the championship in recent years as well. So, yeah, you don't know what way that one could go. Daniel says, from where Donegal were last year to this year, it's incredible to think they're possibly 2 games away from an All-Ireland. And I think Donegal have a massive, massive chance. I really, really do. But yeah, look, Galway will be standing in their way. And as for Louth, like, is this the ceiling, do you think, for this Louth team? Or can they kick on? Like you mentioned there, you reckon they could be promoted from Division 2. I'd certainly give them a very good chance as well. I think a lot could depend now on Ger Brennan and the Dublin job and everything else. If his head gets turned, if that happens. But like, can Louth kick on even further? Or is this the ceiling for them, do you think?
Yeah, I think they can definitely push on forward, because you look at teams in Division 2 next season. You have Roscommon there, have a tendency to play at a high level with the forwards that they have in the team, but they didn't put up much of a test. Armagh, as seen by the weekend, and Louth did very well against Donegal. So there is always the perspective that Louth can beat Roscommon. Monaghan are seen to be a busted flush this season, in all honesty. Down would be very interesting. It'll be interesting to see them at the Tailteann Cup final in 2 weeks, and have they progressed even further under Conor Laverty. It would be interesting to see that standpoint as well. They could be challengers next season. Like you look at other teams, Cork, if they play with the same style of football, they're getting nowhere near promotion. Meath, I think the attitude was poor this season, and Louth to prove that they are a better team than Meath, and proved a lot of doubters wrong in that, including myself. You have other teams there, Westmeath, I think Louth are a better team than them in Division 2. And yeah, I think Louth have a serious chance of going up next season. Cavan as well, I think they're a better team than Cavan. So I do think Louth can count themselves as a contender to be promoted from Division 2 next season if Joe Brennan stays on. It'll be just a shame, to be honest with Jared, if Joe Brennan actually jumps ship and goes to Dublin. I don't think it will happen, but it would be a shame if that was to happen, because he's built so much with that Louth team. And to do it with Mickey Hart obviously leaving the way he did in the off-season, then for Joe Brennan to step in to bring a fire in many ways. Nobody expected Louth even to come within a cat's whisker of an All-Ireland quarter-final. They did so, and they got within 4 points of Dublin. They should be very proud of their efforts this season. And who knows, they could even push on further, because obviously their under-20s reached the Leinster final this year. There are some good players coming through in that as well. Like I think his name is McArdle in the full forward line, who's very good from the under-20s standpoint this season as well. So yeah, there is very good players in Louth coming up from under 20s as well. And it'd be interesting to see, will Bevan Duffy stay on another year? Will Tommy Durnan? They probably will, given the project that he's going on in Louth at the moment. So yeah, I'm very, very hopeful for Louth in the future. And yeah, best of luck to them, because their fans absolutely deserve it. They deserve the weekend in Dublin over the weekend. And hopefully this won't be the last we'll see a Louth in the latter stages.
Yeah, Sean says here they were saying on another podcast that Brian Fenton is also retiring. Louth could win a Leinster Championship over the next couple of years, if that's true. I would be surprised if Fenton retired. Like, he's 32 in March. I still think he's got a few years left, but I would be curious to know where you heard that, actually. But I don't think he will be retiring. Like, I think there will be other players that will retire. I could be wrong now, maybe. Like, he's won, obviously, 8 All-Irelands, 6 or 7 All-Irelands in his time, obviously playing for Dublin. Like, maybe he does feel it's time, you know, there's nothing left to do. But yeah, look, Louth will be there. And Louth, if there's a team that can stop Dublin over the next couple of years, Louth definitely have a massive chance. We'll move on to the All-Ireland minor hurling final. It was Tipperary 217, Kilkenny 312, but it was certainly without drama. Tipperary finished the game with 13 men. They actually had 13 men, 2 men sent off in the first half. Killy Minogue was sent off there as in the first half, and Tipperary ultimately going down to 13 men. Crazy game, but in the end they find a way. They pulled through. Billy O'Brien obviously with a late goal, very much being the difference. And yeah, what a win for Tip and for the Premier County.
It gave a massive sense of boost to the Tipperary hurling community, because the seniors obviously were very, very poor in the Munster Championship. The under-20s did very well, to be fair to them, but it fell short in that under-20 final to Offaly. This was a brilliant win for the Tipperary minors, and like, they showed a lot of heart, a lot of desire. Obviously, Killy Minogue, I read the Irish Examiner report there. It was 8 minutes he got sent off on. And I just mean, like, for an under 17 match, for an inter-county standard, for a guy to be sent off that early in the game, like, it's almost like, can you give these lads the benefit of the doubt? And it was a shame that it did happen. He got the red card. Obviously, Darrow Hoare got a red card late on in the first half as well. And obviously, James Woodlock was going after the official, and probably he had a right to, because like, the 2 sending offs were very, very controversial. But Tipperary, they battled back into the game, and they hounded like dogs in this one. Like, they were absolutely incredible. And Kilkenny, to be fair to them, had very good goals, obviously, for Billy McDermott, Robbie Doherty and Anthony Clifford. You have Jake Mullen having a good performance from Ballyhale Shamrocks club as well, and good in the scoring stakes or over the minor championship as well from his standpoint. But Tipperary battled back, and the Billy O'Brien goal late on, what drama towards the end. And Owen Doohan scoring a goal from the 65 as well, which rarely happens. It was an incredible goal, incredible scenes from Tipperary fans as well. And yeah, it was an incredible victory. And I think it just shows as well a few things. Number one, what these young lads can do if they stick at it, if they stick to the objective, no matter what is thrown at them, what they can achieve in winning the All-Ireland title. And number two as well, what it can do for a county if you have legends inside the under-20 and the minor backroom teams, because the under-20s are managed by Brendan Cummins, the minors are managed by James Woodlock, both All-Ireland champions in 2010 for that Tipperary team that stopped the Kilkenny Driver 5. So those two players, or managers nowadays, would have known a lot about how to get over the line in these pressure cooker games. So Tipperary deserve a lot of credit for getting these guys in. They have the passion for Tipperary hurling, and they deserve a lot of credit for getting over the line in this one. And congratulations to Tipperary. Obviously, commiserations to Kilkenny. They contributed to a very good final as well. And for Tipperary as well to win it in Kilkenny's own backyard with two less men on the pitch in extra time. Incredible. And you can't fault these Tipperary under 17 players. These minor players were absolutely incredible all over the pitch on Saturday, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, Acer says here Tipperary red cards was never yellow. Was never yellow at most. Yeah, absolutely. Like obviously Killian Minogue sent off, and Dara O'Hora, obviously the other man who was sent off there as well. Like I mean, yeah, like I saw Shane Stapleton say on Twitter that this was the best the best All-Ireland win of all time. Like especially when you look at the circumstances that which they were up against, like being down to 13 men, conceding big goals and big moments, playing in Nolan Park as well, which is very much an away game. Like, he felt like every odd possible was stacked against them. Like, everything was stacked against this Tipperary side, but yet they still found a way to come through. And as you said, given the year that Tipperary had, you know, at senior level, obviously with the under-20s losing the All-Ireland final as well, like, like especially when the players started getting sent off and the decisions were going against Tipperary, most Tipperary fans must have started to think it's just not going to be our year with anything. You know, like everything's just going to go against us. But yet they found a way, and very, very commendable. Like, where does it rank for you amongst some of the best All-Ireland wins that we've saw?
I think from a Tipperary point of view, it would rank up the very top because, like, obviously, and I think it would rank alongside the 2010 All-Ireland senior win for Tipperary against Kilkenny, because, and maybe the under-20 win against Offaly the minor win actually against Offaly a few years ago was very dramatic in its own right. But then again, like, Tipperary still had 15 men on the pitch. They were always going to peg Offaly back at some stage in the game. And maybe that was expected by some people. But to win this game with 13 men on the pitch, 14 men on the pitch for, what was this, I'm counting here, for about 62 minutes. Then for Dara O'Hora to get sent off, that's a further 50 minutes with 13 men on the pitch. Like, that is absolutely incredible in its own right. So you have to give this probably the cherry on top of All-Ireland wins for a Tipperary team. Like, it was absolutely incredible in its own right as well. And not just any players. Well, Killian Minogue was one of Tipperary's top scorers coming into this game as well, doing the minor preview during the week. So to get him dismissed after 8 minutes and to still come out on top to win this game. And Minogue was the man of the match in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway as well. So to lose him early on in the game to a controversial red card, may I add, that was an incredible comeback to get, and you have to give Tipperary a lot of credit for that. I think it does rank along one of the great Tipperary All-Ireland wins, and I think it ranks alongside probably the 2010 Cedar win over Kilkenny because of the significance of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Acer says here, the game should have never been played in Nolan Park. Should have been Gaelic Grounds or Cork Stadium, Park Equive. Yeah, look, maybe it should have, but in the end, I don't think it will matter to Tipperary. They got over the line, they got the job done in the end, and that's the most important thing from their perspective. Before we finish up, then, moment of the week, player of the week. I suppose plenty of moments to choose from here, and players.
Exactly, yeah. There's quite a few, actually. Like, off the top of my head, I don't know. Yeah, I think one moment that I have to mention is the way GA go and the way the GA themselves in Croke Park dedicated this weekend to be Holland Moore Hurtig. I think that was brilliant. You know, and like, even before the game, they were going on about Mike Finnerty was pointing at the seat, and this is where Behall crafted his art, and that was class from Diego, I have to say. The comments about Behall all throughout the week was absolutely brilliant in its own right, and obviously condolences to the over Hurtig family. It was a brilliant weekend, remembering a great commentator. in terms of the playing on the pitch, look, I think there's a lot of moments to pick. I'd probably have to go for Tipperary Miners winning the All-Ireland. I know it's away from All-Ireland football quarter-final weekend, and that should have been the cream rise at the top, but that Tipperary Minor win, you can't take away from it. It was an incredible win in its own right to win the game with 13 men on the pitch only against 15, away from your own stadium. It was absolutely incredible in its own right for the Tipperary Miners, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. A few other moments, obviously, Davy Burke doing the interview with his kid, with Aisling O'Reilly. Obviously, Par Joyce doing the same as well on GA Go, and even the kid was saying that Derry, he predicted Derry would beat Kerry tomorrow, and I was kind of hoping, yeah, this kid might be onto something because he predicted Galway would beat Dublin as well. I was thinking maybe this kid could be Lazarus or something like that, but proved not to be. Proved Kerry would beat Derry in the quarter-final, but that was great to see the kids in the post-match interviews, and just shows what the GA is all about as well. And even you could see with David Burke's kid as well, saying that he wanted to be a footballer when he grew up as well. That was just brilliant to see. But a lot of moments. I'd probably have to choose the Tipperary Miners, having said all that, though. And as for Player of the Week, I probably have to go for Peadar Morgan from Donegal against Louth. 5 points from wing back, an incredible performance from him, and much like the Donegal team this year, is definitely standing out and is definitely up for an All-Star this season.
Yeah, and absolutely, yeah, no, I think he was absolutely outstanding. 5 points in total. I think Player of the Week for me, I probably would go Shane Walsh. He was outstanding, obviously, against Dublin. 7 points, like some of them points in the first half were absolutely outrageous. And yeah, in terms of moment of the week, like probably should have mentioned that at the start. Obviously, Michal O'Mahertig, like obviously I suppose all the tributes and everything that went out during the week were obviously absolutely brilliant to see. And yeah, obviously we pass on our condolences to his family. And yeah, the GOAT GA commentator, there's no doubt about it. I think arguably the greatest Irish sports commentator of all time. I would certainly have him as number one anyway, in my opinion. Yeah, like obviously seeing that tribute like before the game, I think was absolutely brilliant to see. And in fairness to the GA and Croke Park, they are very, very good at those tributes before the game. In terms of moment of the week from matters on the pitch, look, as a Dublin fan, I couldn't choose Galway beating Dublin as much as it was the best moment of the week. I probably would go with Tipperary's All-Ireland win. I have some family from Tipperary and everything else, so happy days. We can enjoy that one. Asa says Galway was performance of the week. Miguel says, did you have a good time in Vegas? I did. It was very, very good. I think everyone in their lifetime deserves to go there at least once, I think. And to be honest, now that Galway have beaten Dublin, I probably should have. If I had known Dublin would have lost, I would have just stayed there. Do you know what I mean? I should still be there now. But yeah, no, it's a brilliant place in fairness. And Acer says Kilkenny v Clare will be decided by extra time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing those games later in the week. But until then, anyone who tuned in, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers to Matthew for coming on. We'll be back later in the week with a preview of the hurling action and much, much more. So until then, we'll speak to you all soon.